Wikipedia is the largest, encyclopedia out there, right? Collaborative curation, which is also kind of example of Wikipedia, but other things too, where people sort of, correct each other's work to make the overall work much more correct. Okay? Collaborative tagging, you make up tags for other people's articles, and then the search engines can then use these tags without understanding what is in them. So imagine Pandora gets sick and tired of hiring undergrads and paying them big money. So they somehow ask people to collaboratively tag all sorts of music and start using that. And they can use, those features can be used to kind of do retrieval. Okay, so the question is, how do I get people to do it? And in general, there is this other problem that the quality of the work you get is proportional to the money you pay for it. You get what you pay for is the usual statement. And we want to pay 0. And we still want to get 100% quality work. How do you do it? Yes?
Games. Making
games are this guy. Some of you should be able to recognize this picture, right? This is Norman Rockwell's picture of Tom Sawyer making other kids do his work. Tom Sawyer was told, you go and paint the fence. He doesn't want to do it. He's a Tom Sawyer, he has other stuff to do. So the other bozo kids, he wants to get them to do it without paying them anything. So what does he do? He makes it look as if it's such great activity. He's having almost orgiastic pleasure just doing this painting. So all these other kids, oh my God, you are having so much fun. Can I do it? Can I do it? May I do it? And so in fact, he can charge them. I think he charges them in the book. You see what I'm saying? So why can't we be as smart as Tom Sawyer? And when collaborative curation works, we figured out how to incentivize humans to do it. So there are different models. The big open issues here is, how do you pose the problem such that it can be solved using collaborative computing, first of all? How do you incentivize people into letting you steal their brain cycles? I'll give you a clue. Basically going around with electrode and saying, can I put one on your head? Not going to work. Okay? You have to make them do it without thinking they're doing anything. The last thing anybody, any red-blooded human being doesn't want to do is help anybody. Right? Why the heck would I help anybody? So I should be sort of doing this without thinking that I'm helping anybody. I'm just having fun. Okay, so games is one way, or you can pay them. So Mechanical Turk, Amazon, started as a funny thing, but now actually it pays. And there are people in other countries, not yet. I guess there are a reasonable number of people. There's actually some, if somebody reminds me, I'll send a link to a survey on who are the workers on the Mechanical Turk. Do you people even know what Mechanical Turk is? It's Amazon, which basically where you want some work done and you put it in this marketplace, and you say, for each of my homework problems of my students that you grade, I'll give you 2 cents. And then the department gives me 5 cents, so I pocket the 3 cents, for my own health. And that because you looked at the homework problem, you got 2 cents. The question, of course, is how do I make sure that you just say, you put a couple of ticks. That's what I do too, but you put a couple of ticks. And then, if I put the ticks, then you come and yell at me saying, why did you put a, cross mark here? I'll make up some story as to why I was right. If somebody else put it, I don't know why they did it. So the question is, how do I make them, this is what I'm going to do this semester, because I have very little TA support. So how do I use MTurk to get all the exams and homework graded? But I have to do it in such a way that I should not have to then look at all the graded homework to see if it's graded correctly or not. If I did that, I'm stupid, because I'm doing double the work. I paid the money to them, plus I'm also redoing everything myself.
I become an MTurk user to make it.
What? You will sign up, you mean?
Yeah.
That's a very smart idea. I think some of you should sign up, and then we'll have a nice circular reasoning going on. But more interestingly, think about this. When you are using collaborative computing of these sorts, when you're paying for this, how do you make sure that what they said is actually right? Okay? An example is one other one. In this case, basically, you have to split the problem in such a way that there are different kinds of workers. Some workers which do some low-level work, and then some other workers which will then look at random samples of this work and then give it passing or failing grades. So the first set of workers are saying whether or not your homework problems are getting grades, and the second set of workers are saying whether the first set of workers are qualified or not. And the third set of workers will be saying whether the second set of workers should be present or not. And I make a nice, at the risk of using the wrong analogy, pyramid scheme. Okay? And and the winner is me, because I have been able to find a nice way of using people, by paying them cents. Okay? Yes?
Have you heard about Chacha?
Yes, Chacha is a search engine which basically pays people to answer queries. Right? I mean, you should look at it. That's a good scheme. So paying is one way, and even if you pay them, it's still not a solved problem. You need to figure out how to do it in such a way that you don't need to redo the whole work yourself again. It's not easy. I mean, none of these are jokes. It's an important research problem. There are people out there trying to understand how to use MTurk. Why? Because there are enough people in the universe, in the world, who are willing to spend their time making this money. And it's worth their time. Okay, the question of course is how do you use it? Yes?
Can't it be done like something like, let's say MTurk is the middle person, and MTurk keeps 1 cent and it gives 1 cent to the people who are specialized in some kind of thing. So let's say you want to grade some of your projects or let's say homework, they rent it to some person who is expertise in this field, and they keep 1 cent for that and give him 1 cent.
I mean, we can talk more about this, but that's still just a beginning idea. That's still, eventually the question is, you think people with expertise will sign up to be MTurk workers?
Actually,
right? I mean, you don't see me signing up. None of my grad students are signing up to, get 3 cents to, evaluate your homeworks.
There is a system like Awaz.de, in which actually people call this number. They ask about the questions related to the farming. And what they do is they consult the expertise, they pay them, you have a registration fees towards Awaz.de.
That's an interesting point. I mean, please send that more details to the blog so that other people also know. But eventually my point is there are non-trivial problems in trying to use free help, or close to free help. Okay, so in fact, one of the best ideas is, Google is interested, just as Pandora is interested in providing features for music, Google is interested in providing features for images, because text search is much faster than image search, even now. So if I show a picture and say, show me pictures like this, it's much harder. Okay, and if I go to the image search and basically say, show me pictures of tigers, it's not the case that all pictures of tigers will have big words tiger written on it. Do you see what I'm saying? So we basically can look at pictures and say, oh, this has tigers, so I'll give it to you. What is easy for us is very, very hard for automated systems because they can't do image understanding. So what needs to happen is introduce structure to the image. This is connecting back to the previous class. Okay, structure is everything. Pandora pays to get the structure. Okay, what you would like to do is get structure free. So you want people to annotate images. How do you make people annotate images? I mean, and you don't want to pay anything to them. So then you should show the image and then people write some words describing that image. That becomes the textual description of the image. So whenever I'm searching, I only search over the textual description. Wait. The one question, of course, is because I'm not paying anything to the humans, they can make all sorts of random stuff up. How do I make sure that the stuff that you have written is actually relevant to the picture? Enter ESP game, which is a neat idea, which basically says essentially that the way it understands that if two randomly selected people who have no collusion possibilities, they don't know each other, are free associating words shown the same picture, and if some word appears in both the lists, then it's very highly likely that it is actually truly representative of the picture. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's easy to lie. In fact, the hardest part about lying is, it's been said that autistic people have trouble lying. And in fact, they say that how do you lie? Because which lie do you tell? The world that I know is one state. When I make up stuff, there are infinite number of possibilities. Which lie am I supposed to choose? And you do it fine because you're damn good. You make up lies. But here is the classic example, right, of the two kids who basically decide to flunk the, miss the exam because they're not prepared for the exam. They don't want to, come to the exam on the date that was being given. It's 7:30 a.m. in the morning. Who wants to wake up at 7:30 a.m. in the morning? So they basically decide that we just go tell the guy that, we were coming and then there was a problem. And then, he'll let us take the exam next day. So they come to the teacher and say, there was this, our tire burst. And so, you should basically, it was such a sad thing and, so you should let us take the exam next day. And I say, sure, fine. So next day they come. Some of you heard this. So both of them are put in two different rooms. The same question paper is given to both of them. There's only one question on both of them. Which tire? Do you understand? That's the complexity of coordinating your damn lives. If you are telling the truth, it's not hard to coordinate because the truth is out there and it's just one truth. If you're telling lies, there are just so many details and I can always trip you up. So what the teacher was thinking was that unless they're lying, unless they're telling the truth, they won't know which tire. Okay, right? And ESP is using exactly the same intuition. What it does is you can register to play this game, and then you are just anybody from anywhere, and then they will pick randomly when you sign on to play. They will pair you up with some other random person from the world. Okay? And both of you are shown the same picture. And you start typing, free associating words. And then ESP says that you both gain a point whenever you say the same word without knowing. And people love points. They love points more than dollars. Right? If you ask people, do you want $2 or 2 points? Always 2 points. Man, good points. Okay? So people just keep doing this stuff. And in fact, when this guy, Louis Van Aan, who invented this particular game, tells all these funny stories where for some of them he had to stop them from playing because he felt that they're just completely wasting their life only playing this game. They were having so much fun. And by the way, he also said this other interesting story that some people found their soulmates. Again, the same idea that I talked about previously. Okay, so an example that he gives is these two random people were shown the picture of the then US President George Bush, and both of them instinctively said, "Tech." They really both hated them, and so they said, wow, we must be soulmates. They got the point, and if you keep making points with somebody, some particular ID person, then you must be soulmates. So Louis Van Aan would be getting mails from these people. Can you please tell me the phone number of player number 785784? I really would like to kind of date them or something. Okay. So the point, of course, is this is a situation where they are almost willing to pay him for doing work for him. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, do you teach this as to how to do this in computer science? Not necessarily. But you need to use these kinds of ideas if you want to get free work. With guarantees. Free work with guarantees. This idea of agreement-based analysis, this is what we are doing. This is, do random people agree on something, it must actually be more likely to be true. That's something that we'll use other places too. That has mathematical basis. And you're using it in this case to get free work. Okay, the last one is tapping into the collective unconscious. That's the other big idea. So we talked about 3 ideas in case you're losing track by now. Finding sweet spots in a computer-mediated cooperative work, collaborative computing, which is this, and then tapping collective unconscious. Which is to realize that the web is not random. It's pages that people actually sat down and made. As of the time when I wrote this slide, that is still true. Although you can actually very easily write a program which generates infinite number of junk pages with junk strings and gives them all URLs and then trips, and then basically you pay for the IP addresses for those, then you're in business. You will start having actually random content on the web. But most of the web pages are actually generated by people like you. Most of the spam mails were written by people like you. Okay, if that is the case, if web is not random, then you should be able to exploit, you should be able to learn something about this world from just reading the web. If you're a Martian coming to Earth, you read the web, you should be able to learn something about the human race. So can your program. Your program is a Martian because it doesn't know anything about the world, just like the Martians don't. And it too has to learn. So the interesting thing is, since all of the web is, most of it is written by humans, so analyzing its structure and content allows us to tap into the collective unconscious. This guy there, what's his name? Carl Jung. Who said that? Wow, very, very nice. Okay, this is the first time anybody actually guessed who that person is. Carl Jung, of course, talks about collective unconscious. Okay, and so that's why his picture is there. And so web is our collective unconscious. Okay, and so you can use that. So analyzing term co-occurrences in the web scale corpora to capture semantic information. So you can understand synonyms by just the fact that they seem to be occurring next to each other. Functional synonyms. If the text was randomly generated, that doesn't mean anything. So computer and science seem to go together. So you could say they are functionally connected. That would not be the case if the entire web was randomly generated. That's not the case. Okay? So this, much of the statistical machine translation works because of this, because they have articles in one language that are also in another language, and so they can basically compare piece to piece. Before the onset of web, just getting aligned text was such a painful thing that machine translation of large scale was not possible. Now you have humongous data, all you need is techniques for analyzing this data. And it's non-randomly generated data. Okay? So analyzing the link structure of the web graph to look for communities. People put links. Links don't just grow randomly from pages. So you should be able to figure out communities in the web by just looking at the web structure, link structure. All of those make sense because you believe that web is the collective unconscious. You can learn how the world works. Okay? That kind of gets me to the last point, which is, suppose I did come from Mars and I want to figure out whether water flows downhill or uphill. And I'm a Martian and I can't ask you questions because you're scared of me. I look kind of funny. So the question then is, I want to ask Google. How do I ask? I'll say, in this case, water flows downhill, under quotation marks. And here, water flows uphill, under quotation marks. I don't care about the results. I want to see how many hits. According to this, there are 25,000 pages which seem to say water flows downhill. And only 864 pages that say water flows uphill. So I have now a probability that, high probability that in this planet water seems to flow downhill. I just used the web. In fact, I had a grad student who would basically not be sure, even before Google started giving spelling suggestions, etc. He wouldn't be sure of idiomatic English. He's from China, very smart guy. So he would use Google. He will write whatever he wants to write and ask Google, does anybody else have this sentence? And it will tell you the closest sentence to that, and he'll put that. Okay, and that's basically using collective unconscious. He's assuming that the people out there are not writing random sentences. They're writing sentences which have structure, which have meaning. Okay, so continuing this. This is 2007, by the way. 2008, I asked the same question. And it turned out that 11,300 people thought that the pages thought that the water flows uphill, and water flows, this one is, there's something wrong, but basically by 2008, water flowing downhill was almost close to water flowing uphill in terms of probabilities. By 2008. Okay? So Martian coming in 2008 thinks this is sort of an ambivalent planet. Sometimes water flows uphill, sometimes water flows downhill. 2010 I checked, and water flowing downhill was 11,600. Water flowing uphill is 15,000. So by 2010, water started actually flowing uphill. Now the question that you might be having is, where the heck did I go with this analogy? I said web is collective unconscious, and that you can be using that to learn facts. And yet now I'm learning nonsensical facts in 2010, such as water flows uphill. That's the very last idea that I want to talk about, which is above everything else, web is big bad jungle out there. Okay? It's adversarial from the word get-go. Anybody can put pages. Anybody can make up knowledge. The only thing that will stop them, stop you from getting wrong knowledge is if in fact enough people put the right knowledge out there. And so any techniques that do not take into account the adversarial nature of the web are destined to fail. Starting very much from the fact that now today, if in fact there are no link-based analysis for page ranking, then I can say I am White House. I'll just put White House on my page. Now, thankfully, with link analysis, I would not come up first. White House will come up first. But many of you know Google bombs, right? So, for example, if you at one time, I don't think it's no longer correct, but if at one time if you typed the keywords miserable failure, you would get George Bush's homepage. Is it because Page and Larry Page and Sergey Brin really hate George Bush? Maybe they do, but they don't have that much time to make so many links. What was happening was that the Democrats, instead of actually going and taking part in the elections, took this course and started putting links from various pages saying, for a miserable failure, see this page. For a miserable failure, see this page. And we'll find that in fact, in the web scenarios, as is in the real world scenarios, what you say about yourself is less interesting than what other people say about you. If you go about what people say about themselves, they're all good looking, they're all handsome, they're all very smart, they're all very, unless the few people who have major self-esteem problems. Okay? That's why we never ask for get a recommendation letter from yourself for your job. You ask somebody else. Right? So the question then is, when some page puts a link to you and puts some text around that link, that becomes part of the description of your page. That's how we think of in the world, right? And that can be done very easily on the web. And that also opens up because it is. So for example, I can write a recommendation if you guys are not being nice to me and one day you make the mistake of asking me for a reference letter. I'm not saying I would, I might say bad things about you. And they'll believe me. Right? Because if you say good things about yourself and one guy says bad things about you, more people are likely to believe the other guy. You understand what I'm saying? So what basically was happening there is somebody was writing a link. It's just that enough people write a link to your page and put this text, that becomes actually an important part of your page. You didn't even put this stuff in your page. Like everything else, this could be used for good as well as bad. The very first result on this was, if you searched for the word browser, Netscape, which used to be the greatest browser at one time, that page wouldn't even come up because Netscape knew it was a browser. So it didn't have to say browser on its page. And so nobody will find Netscape if they just search for the keyword browser. If you also consider what other people are saying about Netscape, they were all saying for a good browser, go here. And so when you say browser, Netscape will come up first. And some of them are also saying for a miserable failure, go there. And that is a Google bomb. Okay? And so you need, and this adversarial thing is an arms race. Everything important in life is adversarial. You know that we have the brains we have not because we were going to be eaten by tigers otherwise. We don't need this kind of brains to deal with tigers. We need this kind of brains to deal with each other. It's you all who are the enemies of yourselves, not the tigers, which already are gone mostly. Right? And its adversarial nature is what made us smart. That's what we needed, these smarts just to deal with each other. And web is the same thing. Don't think of it as a bug. It's just the feature of the world you live in. Everything is adversarial. Okay? And so you have to be able to handle that adversarial nature. Develop techniques that don't fall flat the first time somebody generates a page that should not have been there. Those are the big ideas. And I'll leave you with this, that in 2011 I did check again, and I think somebody listened to my lecture, so now water is in fact flowing downhill again. There are 50,000 results for water flowing downhill, and only 14,000 results for water flowing uphill. So peace and tranquility is restored for today. Okay? We'll come back.